Do you have an ego? And how do you feel your ego will come into play in the weekly dealings with the current board members who, it is rumored, also have egos?
So it's a hypothetical thing? I worked for the federal government. Had to be in unions most of my life. I've worked for defense contractors. I've worked all over the country, and I guess when it comes to having an ego and working with people, I guess you just have to be willing to compromise and be willing to agree to disagree. Hopefully I answered that properly.
Thank you. One of the principles I have is don't take personal insults personally. Another one is that you can do anything you want as long as you don't try to take credit for it. And this plays into the ego. Let somebody else take the credit if you really want to get something done. So I think that those two principles are how I sort of circumnavigate around my fellow selectmen. Thank you.
COPCO gets too much camera time compared to the other four. So if I'm elected, we're going to have our little timer working there. So do I have an ego? No.
You know, it's interesting. On serving on a board like the Board of Selectmen, I must say that while it may be presumed that we all have egos, and I'm sure we do, I'm certainly not one to ever not speak my mind if that's what an ego is, although I think it has more to do with not listening than speaking. I do feel that the group ultimately respects and that we conduct ourselves in a way that's respectful. I'm proud of that. I'm proud to be part of a board that has that as a mandate. For the most part, I think we do well with the public as well. And from my perspective, if you want to know what a strength I've long considered a strength of mine is the ability to negotiate. I'm one of 7 children, and I've never ever been in a position where it wasn't a number of opinions on the table to get anywhere. And it started early, and I think I'm continuing.
I'm the oldest of 6, and I've learned some skills in negotiation over the years. I also taught high school for 17 years. And I think that as a public school teacher, if you're going to be successful, you have to be able to check your ego if you want to work effectively with other people. As Patty said, I think that the current board, I haven't noticed any real outbursts of ego there. I think it's been a very cohesive board. I think we've worked together, and we're a very independent group. Each one of us is, I would say, pretty independent-minded. We express our views, and then we come together generally in consensus.
Thank you. Now I'll go back to the panel for a couple of questions. And Patty, would you respond first to this one, please, from Jason?
Another important job that selectmen have is making the appointments to different committees and boards, Airport Commission, Conservation Commission, and this is something that Cliff has brought up in his responses in the Inquirer Mirror. But has the current board chosen the appropriate candidates, and is the process working in making these choices?
One of the key jobs we have is obviously appointments, and I don't believe that we've ever gone straight through the appointment process and all been on the same page. I've had candidates where I've been very strongly in support which have not made the cut. Ultimately, I believe that we do have a healthy dialogue that we take, and we respect the candidates, which is very important. And eventually, what's more important is that those candidates are aware of their mission, they're aware of their charge, and that they're given the support that they deserve and need while they're on the board and functioning. So while the appointment process is a delicate one, sometimes it's very difficult with your neighbor to be making a decision to place them or not place them on a particular board. At the end of the day, we have to weigh both qualifications, functions of the board, and it's our responsibility to going forward to make sure that those individuals are given the support that they need in the direction that they require.
I agree. I think this is one of the most important functions that the Board of Selectmen has. You know, really, the Selectmen don't have a lot of power other than the bully pulpit that we possess up at the front of the table on Wednesday night. The appointment power, the evaluation of the town manager and town council, that's pretty much it. It is a very important process that we undergo. I would say overall that the process is working and works pretty well. There, we don't always agree on the candidates, but I would say that the boards and commissions that we appoint have been, by and large, very effective, and I think the process works.
So we're picking on the airport. I just think there should be more of an interview process, especially when it comes to the airport, or a board like the airport that's in charge of so many millions of dollars. They've probably been in charge of about $50 million in the last 5 years. And seeing I've been in the process, it's kind of short. It's not very engaging. At least I didn't think it was, as far as trying to find the in-depth experience of a person that was asking to be on the board, like the airport.
I take a very positive and active approach toward this subject. I like to encourage people to apply. Many people are afraid to apply, and I often go up to them and say, jump in and swim. I'm always looking for talented people. I've bumped into a few people on the island that were a little hesitant, and when I see their resume, I say, my gosh, you ought to apply for such and such. And consequently, I've seen a great improvement in the committee structure over the past 5 to 6 years that I've been involved. Thank you.
I think the current board and the committees as now appointed are doing a very good job. And one of the things I feel that the boards over the years have to face is probably the limited number of applicants. If I'm elected, I would love to bring more people into participating in government. I think a lot of us have a lot more time than we did a few years ago. And what better way to use it than to serve our fellow citizens?
Thank you. Dan, would you ask the next question? And Alan, would you respond first, please?
I'd like to know from you all the answer to the same question I asked the planning board candidate. What was the benefit to the town of the Wilkes Square conceptual development project, since none of it is binding on landowners and developers? And did the town get its money's worth from that effort?
I think as far as the second part of the question, that remains to be seen. So far, I think we are getting value for the money that's spent. The town spent, I believe it was $118,000 to commission the Wilkes Square study. I feel that this was an important thing for the town to do. Without the leadership of the town, the planning department, to take this on, we're essentially left to 4 individual owners to do what they want with that very essential property right in the heart of downtown. I think that it is important for the town to take a leadership role, to say, we want to have some say in this, particularly where we don't own any of that property down there, where we don't control the property. I think it is essential for the town to take a leadership role in the planning that is necessary as the town grows, as the needs of the community grow.
I think it's great if we can become engaged in that project. I'm in favor of a parking lot down in that area. Maybe a lot of people aren't. I saw an article where most people voted against it. I actually thought it would have gone the other way. I'm not sure how much money we would have spent, or I'm not have that depth knowledge on the project, but I definitely think it's important for the town to be part of that process so they can have some influence on what is built there.
The Wilkes Square project actually had its inception in the fact that we have bulk fuel tanks downtown and we wanted to move them out to the airport. And Patty and I were involved in the downtown revitalization. I was a strap hanger and she was the chairman. We wrote the RFP and tried to get the people involved and the owners involved to come to some kind of conclusion. And really, it's something that has to be done because we got to move the tanks out of town. So then the problem is, what is it going to look like? And that's what we're trying to do in the Wilkes Square project.
It has always been the bottom line for me on the Wilkes Square project, and I don't think this was $118,000 the town should have spent at this time. Insofar as there are 4 individual owners concerned, the town could have influenced what happened down there through departments we already have, the HDC, whatever, but I was never comfortable with this expenditure.
As Whitey noted, I was pretty involved with the entire concept of the Downtown Revitalization Committee and then the Wilkes Square. The property, as you know, is significant both in its size and its location as far as town is concerned. Whatever happens down there is going to matter to all of us in a very big way. The reason we went through this process is in no way not informed by other things like Great Harbor Yacht Club, where we as a town spent an awful lot of money in legal services to fight a developer's idea of what should happen down there. Our activities here were a way of getting ahead of that curve. We sat down with the owners of the property who were very receptive. So as Dan's questions before about the different commissions, they would have a little bit more clarity on what our priorities were. It was a win-win situation, so to speak, for anyone involved, and I think it's very positive.
Thank you. Now I'll ask Whitey to respond to this next question first and ask Jason to ask it. And then I'll go back to some questions from the floor.
The selectmen's proposed changes to the human services arena ended up being pretty controversial. I'm wondering if you support the elimination of the human services department and outsourcing its work. If not, what changes would you propose, if any?
Thank you. I think it's very important to realize that we need to morph our delivery of human services into a collaborative organization, and we have to do it very, very carefully and probably quite slowly. The state demands or is insisting that we collaborate our efforts in order to get state funds. So it's sort of been pushed upon us, and the problem is how to best do it. So yeah, I'm in favor of moving from the Human Services Department to a collaborative organization, but not overnight. Thank you.
I think those supporting the collaborative idea have done themselves a really great disservice because we have not seen a plan. I have said this at the Finance Committee meetings, I have said this at the Board of Selectmen's meeting. In theory, it sounds good, but there are no details. And until a plan is brought forth with management, financial benefits, let's put it not on the back burner, but continue with the services in place now until the collaborative people present us with a plan.
Thank you. The important part of this question is that we're all committed to effective delivery of human services on Nantucket. Was the elimination of the department something that we should have done this year? I think the vote of the board in endorsing the Finance Committee's decision shows that at least we're feeling that it's a little bit too much too fast. Is that something that's going to happen down the road? I believe we need to examine the options and all the options in a little bit more detail. A collaborative can happen with or without our involvement. A collaborative is the agencies coming together. The question before us is what is the town's role and how much of that role should be in the form of an individual or in just financial support. And that's what we're grappling with here.
It's important to remember that the town itself does not provide human services. What we provide is a referral service. We call it Human Services Department. And the function there is to refer to the different agencies in the community that actually provide the services. Now, I am convinced that the best way to get more services and better services to the people that need them is through a collaborative approach. Now, we have already decided, instead of doing it by July 1st, we've given it till December 31st to put a plan in place and to make this transition. I think that it'll give more services, better services, more resources to the people who need them. Clifford.
A little bit I do know about human services is they run the whole project with only $10,000. So maybe when it comes to cutting costs, we could take a page from their book. I don't know how you run a department with $10,000, but they do it. I think they just made a point that there was no plan, and that was the most frightening thing, that we were going to just, in the worst economy, try to change the Human Service Department without a real plan. And also, I believe we're trying to do away with the Contract Review Board, which I think is a big mistake. We need oversight. I'm not sure what the plan was for that.
Thank you. I'm going to let Jason ask a follow-up question to that, please.